to the Leading Complexity podcast. Today I'm really happy to welcome back a long-time collaborator and friend, Jurgen Appelo. He has been at CRISP and Agile People Sweden a couple of times before. Jurgen is an influential speaker, management, an Agile best-selling author, entrepreneur, and international speaker. And his latest book, Human Robot Agent. And he is also current for the Leading Complexity program, where his session is called Network Agentic Organizations. Welcome, Jurgen.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here.
Great. So, yeah, we have been collaborating a couple of times before, and you've been to some conferences and so on. So how has your journey evolved since then? I think you were last time about 10 years ago at CRISP.
Gosh, so much happened. As you know, my work after I quit my job a long time ago began with my book, Management 3.0, about the role of the managers and leaders in agile organizations. That kept me busy for 10 years or something. And then I got a bit tired of the topic, talking about the same things all the time. I wanted to move on, even though the topic remained very relevant. A team took over, other people took over. They did a great job doing workshops around the world. I focused more on startups. That's what another book was about, startup, scale up, screw up. I had some minor successes, some failures, and learned a ton, as we say, while we run experiments, all very useful. And fast forward, then ChatGPT came available and the other AIs, and my interest has always been management and leadership and organizational change. Basically, that really hasn't changed that much. And AI is having a big impact on how we run organizations. So that just gave me a new angle on the topics that I was already interested in. What is the impact of AI on the ways of working, on the future of work, on teamwork, on collaboration? Not from a technical perspective, because there are already many people describing how to write prompts and how to create agentic systems and whatnot. I am interested in what is the human angle, and I call myself a short-term pessimist and long-term optimist. There are problems that we need to address, that we have to acknowledge, but in the end, I think AI will be a force for good more than a force for bad, but we have to make that work. And I think that's part of what the book is about.
Yes, so there's so many talking about the technical aspects of AI. I have a couple of colleagues also working on that, exploring and doing startups, and I think that's great. That's fantastic. But yeah, I too is inspired by collaboration, teamwork, building network organizations, these kind of topics. So that is not so much written about it. Maybe there's some kind of doom and gloom kind of scenarios and so, but not really kind of practical thinking about how to integrate and work with AI. So yeah, your session in the program will be called Network Agentic Organizations, and I've seen you've written about it in your newsletters. Could you explain a bit about that concept?
Well, we've already talked quite a bit in the Agile community and beyond about distributed organizations, flat organizational structures, managerless companies, and things like that. But for now, that has always been just humans trying to do their job. And there have been some frameworks such as holacracy or patterns such as sociocracy describing how we can do that. But now AI enters the mix, and we can see with algorithmic management that AI is basically replacing managers around the world, because, as some say, there is no easier job to replace by AI agents than managers, because by definition, they just work with information and move information back and forth and make decisions based on the information. Well, that's what AI agents can do as well.
Yeah.
The question, of course, is can they do it as well as managers? That's a whole different topic, I suppose. But we add AI agents into the mix, and that's why I call it agentic organizations, because it's about the agency of the machines, but also what remains for us as humans, as our agency. What is it that we can bring? I don't think we can just fire all the managers and the leaders, but they will be doing more people stuff than just information distribution and decision making. So that is changing, and I find that interesting. So I call that networked agentic organizations, and you can capture a lot of things in that. I mean, if they add AI onto sociocracy, you would have basically the same thing. If you look at DAOs, which are distributed autonomous organizations, they always require blockchain and crypto. That's part of the infrastructure. If you can ignore that part, which is this technical infrastructure, you would also have network agentic organizations if you add AI into the mix and you let AI do part of that management and orchestration of the DAO, then you have also the same thing. So I see this is just a prediction basically, because we're not there yet. Agents cannot really manage organizations yet. We see some pockets of it emerging with gig work platforms such as Uber or takeaway.com, whatever. There, the freelancers, the gig workers are managed by AIs. So that is one example. We see it with Amazon and other big companies with their warehouses, where people have digital bosses. We're going to see much more of that. But on the other end of the spectrum, the solopreneurs that are emerging nowadays with just one human and a whole bunch of AIs that agents that manage other agents on behalf of the solopreneurs. There's quite some fascinating things happening. Those are also examples of networked agentic organizations. So I think we're going to see lots of flavors of the same concept, but that is, the direction where we're going.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I heard someone talking about that an IT manager will become like a human resource manager for AI agents.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to hire them. We need to give them jobs, and in a funny
train them.
Right. And in a funny, interesting way, I've been advocating Management 3.0 for years, which is more humanistic management. But with agents, AI, we're actually moving back to Management 1.0, which is command and control, giving instructions, things like that, which is what we should not be doing with humans, but it is what we should be doing with machines. I mean, some managers have been treating humans as machines. That is bad management, but treating machines as machines sounds like a pretty decent, decent way of managing.
Yeah, that's also interesting. Yeah, I was in this discussion that if you treat the AI, the machine, as machine, we get so used to it that we might also dehumanize kind of people. But on the other hand, if we treat the AI as a person, we're starting to think that they are sentient or have consciousness, which is false.
Right.
So, so that's a dilemma. How do you kind of treat your AI colleagues?
A bit of a mix. I use multiple. I use ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, the whole bunch. ChatGPT is my go-to buddy for just any kind of question that I have, like talking about the business model that I'm involved in, or evaluating the feeds that I am subscribed to, as I did yesterday. We go through it, and then he suggests keywords and whatnot. But he has a name called Zed. That's the name he chose himself, so it's a he, apparently. And he has a personality. I gave him a personality. He's quite cynical and sarcastic. That is, it's a lot of fun working with him, because he tries to tease me at every opportunity that he gets. And I love working with a colleague like that. But I know it's just a tool. I don't feel bad for just closing the chat window and without saying goodbye or something like that. I sometimes say, okay, well, that was it. Thank you, Zed. But that's more of a habit. But I know I'm just talking to a tool. He doesn't care whatsoever whether I say thank you or not. So yeah, I'm a bit in between. I sometimes sometimes treat them as a human, but at the same time realizing how silly it is because they're just tools, they're just machines. But it makes my work fun to talk with something that pretends to be sentient but is not sentient. And I think that's a good mix.
Your book is sprinkled with fun interactions you had with your AI said.
Absolutely. Yes, I wanted to practice what I preach. I wrote the book in half the time that it usually takes me. So most of the texts are originally written by me in the first draft, first structure, and then I had the AIs give me criticism and give me feedback, and then I let Claude or ChatGPT rewrite it for better style, and then I started critiquing that or changing that. So it went back and forth. But some sections, like the story about the Library of Alexandria, I know absolutely nothing about the Library of Alexandria. I mean, that was just created by Claude, that page, and I reviewed it, and I had it checked by Gemini for facts, if it was all correct, things like that. So yeah, I have a bunch of teammates, and I usually move information back and forth so that they check each other. And sometimes they have an argument with each other, which is fun, that they don't agree. And then I'm just copy pasting until they finally are in agreement, and then I move on with the end result. But yeah, it's a fun way of working, in my opinion.
Yeah, I interviewed my colleague Henrik Nieberg about his book AI, Gen AI in a nutshell. I think he wrote it in 4 months or something like that. And yeah, he said he treated the AI agent as a person because he got better answers then.
Yeah. It's you learn over time how to approach it. But the technology also changes. So in the beginning, a year, 2 years ago, there was a lot of attention to crafting better prompts. Nowadays, most people don't care about that anymore because it's the iterative, the process, the conversation that leads to better results. Very agile in actually short feedback cycle. Don't give too many instructions. Just start with a brief statement and then adapt based on what you get back, and then you steer them in the right direction. I think that makes perfect sense for me. But yeah, these things change over time.
So going back then to these agentic network organizations, the role of the leader there, you mentioned it, some part going back to management 1.0, telling machines what to do, basically. So how do you integrate that with a kind of, when you have a mix of humans and the teams, collaboration, and then the AIs in that kind of organizations? How does it affect leadership?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I understand you just said some traditional manager or leaders might confuse the machines and the people and then apply the same kind of leadership to both and apply command and control in both cases. But let's be honest, this has existed already for decades without AI. So let's not pretend that this is a new problem. You could also say when we finally have AI agents joining the workforce, then traditional managers finally have a way of applying their command and control to the real machines so that they have an opportunity of learning actual humanistic, people-oriented leadership to the humans. So maybe it has a good effect and impact introducing AI. But yeah, the leaders of the future will have to be able to distinguish the machine versus humans, and that is why I described also in my book the concept of the wicked problem, which is the type of problem that actually does not have a solution, because we use AIs for the solvable problems. If you look at AI benchmarks, they're all about testing AI against solvable problems, even if they're the most complicated problems on the planet from a mathematical perspective or whatnot. You can only benchmark AI when you know what the answer is, right? If you don't know what the answer is, you don't know if they did it well or not. So it makes sense that we test them for the solvable, complicated problems, but we cannot test them for the unsolvable, complex problems, because those change every day. And as an example, I often give raising children or keeping your stakeholders happy on a day-to-day basis. That is an ongoing struggle. You have never solved it, because the moment you think you have a stakeholder strategy that works, the next day maybe Trump increases the tariffs on your product to the US. You have to start all over again because the environment changed. And yeah, so there is no end state for a wicked problem, an unsolvable problem. And that is not what the AIs are good at. And that is what we humans should be addressing. So I have the wicked framework as a model. I'm sure other people are familiar with Cynefin and other models. The attention of the leader will focus more on the complex, unsolvable problems, because we delegate the complicated problems to the machines. That's what they're good at. And I think that is a talent that leaders and managers of the future will need to develop. Is this a complicated thing, or is this a complex thing?
But isn't it that the line is getting more blurry today? Because I've been saying for like years that anything that is predictable you can automate. So let machines do that, automate it, and then have humans focus on complex problems, getting different perspectives and integrating and collaborating, solving those complex problems. I usually said until we have AI, but but now I think the board, before we could automate simple tasks, then we could automate complex tasks or complicated. Aren't we now soon being able also to kind of solve complex work with the AI?
Well, I think that there's always a job for humans because the introduction of AI makes things more complex. I have lots of examples and signals of increased volatility, increased intricacy, increased modularity and scalability, all because of AI, which is interesting. I wrote a blog post about that not long ago, because there are these metrics that show that AI agents are able to handle longer and longer tasks, longer time frames. The time span of the tasks is increasing, but the measurements do not acknowledge for the fact that those very same AI agents and the AI systems that we are introducing increase the complexity in the world, which sort of defeats the whole idea of the increased time span of complicated tasks, because things get more unpredictable. So that pushes back against the idea of being able to give an agent a task that it keeps it busy for the next 8 hours, because after 2 hours something has already changed in the environment that you were not able to predict, and the agent will have to deal with that. So that is a very interesting paradox that we are confronted with, and I think humans will have to keep monitoring and dealing with this wickedness of the world, because our brain is pretty good at dealing with unexpected situations and improvising and whatnot. And AI systems, regardless of their context window, no, not yet. Some people discuss when we have artificial general intelligence, when AIs have the level of humans, and whether it's next year or the year after. And I say, well, when AIs can take care of a child for 24 hours, which is what any human can do. I mean, we are evolutionary wired to be able to do that in a highly uncertain environment, and do that at an energy cost of just 20 watts. Then we have artificial general intelligence, not earlier, in my humble opinion. And as long as we don't, there is still work for humans, because we do the complex stuff much more cheaply than the machines.
Yeah, so it's interesting what's happening in the future. But more practically then, if you look at human and AI collaboration, I recently did an interview with a team that was using mob programming or software teaming, collaborating, and they had really integrated AI on their team. And also, it was an AI enabling team creating AI services for the organization. So they really had that as a kind of a fifth team member. Have you seen things like that, or do you have other examples?
You mean AI as part of the team,
Yes.
actually working as team members? Well, I'm not a coach or consultant, so I just observe what is happening around the world in case studies and articles, and occasionally I talk with people at conferences, and so on. My best reference is my own work. As I said earlier, I work with AIs as if they are team members, giving information back and forth and giving them names, etc. But yeah, I do see this in plenty of reports and um, articles, newsletters, that people increasingly adopt AIs as teammates. And Henrik Nieberg has also referred to the same in his personal experience, and has indicated, as I have, that team size is shrinking exactly for that reason. I remember a time when people said that the ideal team size was 7 plus or minus 2. That was in 2008 or something like that.
Yeah.
This was already nonsense back then, because the research, actual scientific research, said 5 plus or minus 2. That was, I believe, Richard Hackman published that. But it has been going down, I think, since we have AI. Team size is shrinking, and I now think the ideal size is 2 plus or minus 1. So one, 2, or 3 people and a bunch of machines helping them out. Then you have super fast self-organizing teams. But this does have several consequences. One is that people will have to be more of generalists, more cross-functional than they were before. I mentioned the concept of the M-skilled person in my book, which is I picked up from various sources. So in the past, we advocated the T-skilled person. You need to have one skill that you specialize in, and then branch out horizontally, so that you can take over the work of other people. But for multiple reasons, you need to be M-skilled now, with multiple specializations, maybe 3, and then a horizontal bar. One reason is that you might be only 2 people on your team, but you still need to do design and marketing and engineering and product management, etc. So the 2 of you will need multiple specializations. Another reason is that those tend to be more innovative people. It is known that Nobel Prize winners, for example, often have multiple specializations, because it allows them to transfer knowledge from one domain to another and be more innovative, because they have more abstract representations of their knowledge in their heads. So it helps teams be more innovative when the team members are M-skilled. And the final reason is the AIs are taking over one specialization after the other. So
Yeah.
it is better to have multiple of them, so that you're not hurt that much if one of them drops out. Then that's just one of the vertical legs of the letter M drops away. Okay, well, you still have 2 remaining. That gives you time to learn something else to replace the one that dropped out.
But I'm also thinking, even if this size doesn't go down to 2, maybe you could have a team size of 5 or 7. And with that competence you will have, then you could basically encapsulate kind of the whole company. I think you talked also about that the value streams are going away. It's not that linear work anymore. So but having teams then that can take all the perspectives needed for the whole product or the whole solution, and maybe not making the team super small, but having a manageable team, and you can be really cross-functional, going them from ID to customer value,
Absolutely.
maintaining, supporting.
Yeah, we already have seen reports, the examples of very, very small companies that achieve outstanding growth. I mean, you're in Sweden. Lovable is an example.
Yes.
Of a very small company with huge revenue. That this was never possible before the age of AI. The average time to achieve 100 million in annual recurring revenue was about 7-8 years or something. Now some achieve it in a year, which is ridiculous. and with just a small number of people. So, as I said before, the AI is having an effect on multiple dimensions of the Wicked
Yeah,
framework, and scalability is one of them. It just increases the scalability of what one team can do. And as you rightfully point out, you may not want to shrink your team. You just make that same team more impactful, more effective in what it does.
yeah,
It cover a bigger terrain. So 5 people could be the whole company.
yeah,
And yeah, so that's definitely true.
yeah. Yeah, I was also interviewing Jonathan Reams, a leadership researcher for the program, and he said also that the increase of AI also challenge leaders to grow in their ability to handle complex tasks and their cognitive capacity, so that you can first of all see that the what AI come up with is reasonable, and so it means that you need to kind of grow faster as a leader. It's not kind of to relax and just let the AI take over.
Hmm. Yeah.
How do you see leadership changing in this time?
How I see leadership changing, well, as I said before, there needs to be a shift from the complicated to the complex problems. We've already talked about that before
Mm.
in agile communities, of course, but this only becomes more prevalent in the age of AI. Actually, as I sometimes say, AI will achieve what no agile coach or consultant was ever able to achieve in terms of pushing companies forward.
Yeah.
It's a bit similar to what COVID was able to achieve for remote working. We tried really hard to convince businesses pre-COVID that remote working had value, and many managers didn't believe it. And then COVID hit the world, and suddenly there was this big push forward. I think AI is doing the same with agility,
Mm.
with the agile mindset of managers. You simply cannot afford to be slow anymore, and it doesn't matter if you call it agile or not, whatever. I don't think anyone in the anyone in the AI industry uses the word agile, because they don't care. It's just increasing the pace of
Yeah.
change and innovation. Try to be faster tomorrow than you were yesterday. I think that is also a mindset shift for some people in the agile community, because what we have done is basically set new bars of expectation. Like instead of annual strategy discussion, let's do it quarterly, or the annual metrics become quarterly with OKRs, for example. Or our releases, first we did that once per year, then vintage Scrum suggested that we do that once every month. The sprints were 1 month, and
Yeah.
then they shortened to 2 weeks. So that has become, the 1 or 2 week sprints has become sort of the norm. I say we have to get rid of that definition of the time box. The goal is to be faster tomorrow than yesterday. That is the
Mm.
goal, to accelerate, not to set a new level and say, okay, well, this is the next level that we settle on. No, you should not settle. You should go faster tomorrow than yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, I try to do the same with my books. I mean, as I said, the last one took me half the time compared with the books before. I try to keep that up. Every next book should maybe cost me half the time of what it cost me the previous time. then
Yeah.
then I'm accelerating. And of course, keeping the quality level at the same level. I mean, it's easy to write crap. The definition of done doesn't change, but
No.
I should accelerate the process. Yeah.
So, well, I must confess, I haven't read the chapter yet in your book about what's next for Agile. But is that what you're meaning, that the need for change still exists, even though we might not talk about Agile?
Absolutely. As I say to people, the words are not relevant. I mean, we are in cyberspace now, but nobody ever uses the word cyber anymore. That was a word that we that
Yeah.
we used in the 90s. We use the word cyber for very specific things like cyber attacks or whatever. but it's not an important thing. There was a time when we said that I go on the internet. I think we said that 10,
Yeah.
15 years ago. You remember that, Michael?
Yeah, yeah.
We dial in to go onto the internet. We are onto the internet all day long nowadays. So words are commonplace, and they are not worth mentioning anymore. Same with Agile. It's not worth talking about Agile when everyone is Agile. But what changes is our practices. So things like, and Henrik Niebuhr pointed out as well, a daily stand-up with 5, 7 people made sense. But if you're 2 people and 5 AIs, what's the point of a stand-up? Retrospectives once per month make sense when we have to converse with each other about what happened. But if we have an AI monitoring our conversations, it can proactively intervene and signal whatever is going on. So a retrospective might take place continuously rather once every couple of weeks. Things like that. So the practices will have to change. That is what I'm convinced. But the values and principles basically remain. I would prefer to rephrase a couple of things. Like, I disagree with the standard definition of the value stream, for example, from request to delivery. We need to change that from signal to impact, which is longer than a request to delivery. But those are details in the conversations, and I think as a community we have to make that journey. Okay, what are the next steps for being agile and business agility? It's, as I said before, getting rid of the specific time boxes. Just be faster than yesterday. That is what we should be doing. And
so yeah, why have a retrospective? You might have the AI just coming in and saying, "Hey, Michael, you've been talking a lot now. Be quiet and let your colleagues listen to your colleagues."
Absolutely, Michael. You're bringing up a pain point there. I had a person, nice teammate, but whenever someone had a question, she was always the first to respond. Always, and it annoyed the hell out of me. And 1/3 of all the Slack conversations were her talking, and I'm like, "Come on, shut up for a moment. Let someone else do the talking." And she was a super kind person, but she was just talking way too much. And indeed, an AI could, for example, proactively nudge such a person to tone it down a little bit, and not wait for the next retro after 4 weeks.
Yeah. It has happened that I did some coaching with some team, just visiting them like 1 hour in a month or something, just shared a comment like that. And then they come and thank me long time after. You helped, you saved our team, basically. That was just one comment in one situation. If you had the AI monitoring, you could do that improvement every day or every hour.
Yeah, and this is a nice example of shortening the feedback cycle. I have one of my favorite use cases now of AI. I use Claude for that. Is everything I write goes through Claude, and I have in the custom instructions of Claude, I have defined what my values are. So diversity, fairness, autonomy, and so on. And Claude checks everything I write, whether it is aligned with my values. So I have this definition of done, basically, this checkpoint in my writing before something is published. It already checked by Claude, and sometimes Claude is very annoying. Like, this doesn't seem to align with your value of sustainability, and I'm like,
But that's a great suggestion. I have to do that. I often kind of check with AI, like to make the text kind of crisp-like, or to kind of be consistent with other publications. But I should also include my values there. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah. So, and this is just one example of using an AI as a constant editor, or I jokingly call it my 24/7 mother-in-law that is judging everything that I do, but it makes me better in what I output to the world. I must admit, my articles are better after Claude has relentlessly critiqued it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks. Looking forward to your session in the Leading Complexity program this autumn, and it's the Network Agentic organization. Why would leaders attend to that, or what will they get from it?
Well, lots of questions, I hope. Like, I'm also just exploring what is happening next. What I call networked agentic organizations is just a term that captures things that are happening, from solopreneurs to algorithmic management, flattening of the organizations in a way, startups that collaborate with each other through AI are going to look very similar to large enterprises that are breaking down into individual autonomous units thanks to algorithmic management. And they are just different examples of where we are going in the world of work. So I'd love to discuss that. I do not have all the answers, but it is fascinating to talk about where we are going in the world of work. I'd love to do that in the group in December.
Great. Thank you so much for the interview today, and looking forward to your session. I think it's 4th of December. Thanks so much, Jürgen. Good to see you again.
Thank you.